All right, welcome back to the STR podcast, otherwise known as the Star 3 podcast. I'm your co-host, Tim Fournier, in person
Whoa.
alongside co-host Ian Mills.
Whoa, in person. First time in person pod.
Yeah,
Right?
first
Yeah,
time
first
ever
first time ever in person
since
pod.
the inauguration in what was that, like 2020?
Yeah. Yeah. So the inauguration in 2020, it is episode
Yeah, well, yeah,
31,
yes.
which is our I don't know what number this is that we've done weekly, but 31, the Jairus Byrd builds legend. I wouldn't say
Jairus
legend.
Byrd episode.
Jairus Byrd episode.
David Johnson, and I'm not gonna lie, right before this, I looked up that Reggie Miller was
Yeah.
31. Had to double check that.
Spencer Haywood too.
Spencer
I looked
Haywood,
that up as well.
headband legend.
Yeah, 31's a weird, it's a
31 is
weird.
a weird number. There's got to be more like random like
I
safeties.
was gonna
I
say
feel like
there's
it's a safety number
probably a lot of
or like a
corner,
really bad corner.
bad corners, safeties, and then like yeah, I mean like Reggie Miller just kind of like I feel like the NBA is so random with their numbers.
Yeah, I feel like there should be more running backs with 30.
And there definitely are. I mean, David Johnson, you got to think of a guy like who, you know, is kind of versatile both ways, can run the ball, can catch the ball. I think when I think of 31, I
Mm,
don't really, I like I don't think of that. Like when I think of 31, I think of more like a backup power running back,
yeah, that's definitely what I think of too.
like
But anyways, so I'm back home. I'll be back home for a few weeks. We might be
yeah,
able to get a few
couple in-person pods.
in-person pods. But, I guess one thing, this is like what I always say I'm always good for, random topic change.
Sure.
One thing I've been thinking about, I don't know if you relate to this at all, is the I was talking about this with someone the other day, and it's like how different everyone's like timelines are
Oh, for sure.
at our age,
Yeah.
and it's very easy to feel behind, and I definitely feel behind. Being in grad school, not working at the moment, I'm like, God damn. And like I always feel like I need to be doing more, but there's not necessarily something for me to be doing right now.
Right.
And it's also kind of like when I, eventually find that whatever, I'm probably gonna be like wishing that I was just like back in the spot where like,
For sure.
yeah.
I,
I don't know
I
if you have any feelings like
no, I
that.
do like being uh when I was when I was like in high school, or not in high school, when I was in college working as a sports director at Binghamton, I was like, oh, I'm ahead of everyone basically. Right? Like I
Sure.
was in college
Yeah,
and
yeah.
had a a big job or an important job, whatever. And then the moment college ended, I was like, like I'm behind. Like I'm
Mm,
behind again. You know what I mean? And then
sure.
I did that job for a year and a half out of college. And that entire time out of a year and a half out of college, I was like, I'm doing this, I'm doing my college job. Like I'm
Yeah.
still doing my college job. And so I definitely felt that way. And even now, I look at what I'm doing now, and it's like I'll go to an important story, and most of the people there are several years older than me. But like if anyone's like in my age range,
Yeah.
oh, you were here first, like you got here first, like you got here before I did,
Mm,
But also it comes down to, I mean, you mentioned a good point where it's like sort of just enjoying where you are in the moment, and
yeah.
it's like
It's hard, easier said than done.
it is very easier said than done. Like what I struggle like our date. I mean, one of my days off Thursday, I would say we do this, and then I do. Yeah, I've talked about my Thursday routine quite a bit
Heck
on the
yeah.
pod,
Wings.
but I really do struggle with like having days off and not doing anything.
Hmm.
Because it's like I feel like, oh, I could be doing something else to further,
Right.
not necessarily a career, but some type of creative fulfillment. So like
Yeah.
I do get it, and it's just like very easy to kind of fall into that headspace. And like I'll text my girlfriend, she'll be like, "Oh, how's the day off?" And I'm like, "It
Yeah.
sucks." And she's like, "Why? Like, what happened?" I'm like, "I haven't done anything." And she's like, "Yeah, that's kind of the point of a day off,
Yeah.
you know."
No.
And
Which that isn't all bad to have those feelings
no,
of like
it's
needing
not
to like
for sure.
get stuff done. I
But
don't
you
know. It's a
also don't want
balance.
to you also don't want to beat yourself up over relaxing,
Definitely.
and
Yeah.
over like recouping,
Yeah.
especially if it's like earned,
Yeah.
you know. Um,
I'm struggling with that because I feel like I have so much free time that I like could be using towards something, but like I have school and then it's like
yeah,
I don't know, there's not like set things for me to do. And I feel like I've just been like trying to fill this void.
yeah.
And before it was kind of the marathon. And now that that's gone, it's like, now what do I do? Like I've
My
been back and like now I don't even have school and I've been like working out.
Yeah.
Like I've only been here for 3 days, but I've worked out like 3 times every single day
Yeah.
just because it's like whatever. And I'm working on like an Excel proficiency course. Like that's literally it.
I know I get that. I've
Yeah, it's like,
gotten
gosh.
very into the mindset of like be where your feet are.
Yeah.
Like wherever you are, like don't let it distract. I mean, yes, having future goals is obviously important, but like focusing on what you can do like in the moment and like peek behind the scenes. Like when I go to, for my job that I work at, like when I go to an important story weekly, like when I
Mhm.
go to the Bills weekly, half the time I'm like freaking out. Like I'm
Yeah.
like there and like I'm enjoying myself, whatever. And it's like I know I can do this, but like the driving, 90 minutes, thinking about it in your head for 90 minutes, and then you get
That's gotta
there.
be tough. Like such like anxiety
Yeah.
inducing.
And then you're there and everyone around you has been doing this for like decades
Yeah.
and they're all so good at it.
Yeah.
And they all have like everyone help they have people helping them. And then I'm just there by myself and I'm like, shit, like what like I might not be good at this. And then I think about it constantly and then like I'll have to actually remind myself like stop. Like don't like be where you are
Yeah.
now and like focus on what you're doing. And if you screw up, just do it again. Like keep like constantly
Yeah. Yeah.
turning it out. And I guess my point of saying that is like I've gotten very into just like whatever my thing is that day, just do it to the best of my ability and
Hmm.
don't worry about like at least in that moment, don't worry about because it's so easy to like jump ahead and see someone else doing something and being like, well, why can't I be doing that? Or why
Yeah.
can't I do that right now? And it's like, well,
Right.
that's not really how, you know, thinking about that's not going to accomplish anything.
Right. Yeah. It's just I don't know. Like I said, and like looking at it through the ones of everyone else that we know our age, like everyone is in such different
For sure.
timelines. And it's crazy because you grow up with these people and it's like everyone is on the same exact timeline.
Yeah.
And then you graduate college and then everyone like
Goes different.
they like speed up, slow down, change lanes.
For sure.
And it's crazy to see where everyone's going. And then it's cool to be back and kind of like I don't know, like this time of year is cool to come back and like catch up with people and like see where everyone's at. After this, we're gonna go get lunch
Yeah.
with Mike, get some
Yeah.
barbecue.
Yeah. 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 And that has really been cool is the reminder of coming back home because I wasn't here obviously for a while. And so like coming back home and like seeing people and then like kind of being reminded that like nobody really like when you're hanging out with somebody, nobody cares about that timeline. Like no,
Yeah,
you're not
also
like
very true.
you're not like, oh well, this guy's got a job here. Like,
Yeah,
you like, yeah, you want to talk about the job, want to see how they're doing, but it's not a competition with you
yeah,
or your friends.
definitely.
And so that's been nice. But yeah, like as you just mentioned, like we have friends who are engaged or like already
Yeah,
married too, which I know we've talked a lot about, but like that's
I am like light years away from that.
yeah.
I
So
think, who knows?
which one of our lucky viewers?
There's not many of you to pick
Will
from. Will
Anderson.
Anderson has been looking pretty good lately, honestly.
Will probably has a bunch of number 31s that we
Yeah,
can
he's gonna like
celebrate.
name off like
The most
I don't know, like Pac-Man Jones and like Jared Sutherland or something.
Jared
Like
Sullinger.
by Sakita or whatever, like old Syracuse players.
Oh my goodness.
All right, so another random topic change because we're talking about sports a little bit. You made a kind of clip the other day about the MVP race,
Yeah, I did.
and I was actually surprised to hear that you like don't necessarily think it's like locked.
It's not. And this is what's
I'm kind of like I think 1,000% Josh should be leading,
sure, for sure.
1,000%.
And I agree with that.
But I think there's still a lot of things to
There's three
play out.
weeks left in the regular season.
Yeah,
Here's
like I don't think you should be like minus 1,000.
no, for sure.
But it
I
is, but
agree.
like I also get it where it's like it's a narrative driven award, and that
Right.
is the narrative.
Well,
So like I think the odds reflect that, not like objectively who should win.
if the Ravens lose to the Steelers, Josh Allen wins the award.
Oh
Basically.
yeah, yeah,
Basically, that's what it comes down
yeah,
to.
yeah.
And but even if Lamar beats the Steelers,
It's not like he wins it.
Yeah, it's not
No,
like
no,
he
no.
automatically
They got to
gets
win the
it.
division. The Ravens have to win the division, get the three
Get the
seed,
3 seed.
and then if it's like okay, the Bills have 13 wins or what would it be?
they would
14
if they
wins,
win out, they'd be 14.
and the Ravens have 12, and then Lamar has like slightly better stats, maybe. Then it's a
then it's a
conversation.
conversation. Yeah.
Because I think last year was a little bit different, where it was like the Ravens were far and away the best team in the league record wise, wins against good teams, and like the Bills didn't even clinch. Didn't they not clinch a playoff spot until the last game of the year? But they won the division.
It was the last week of the regular season because they clinched a spot when the Titans lost to Titans
Oh
beat the
yeah, yeah,
Jags,
yeah. That's
but
what it
then
was.
they won the division
Right. And then
because they were either the 2 seed or the
yeah,
7 seed.
and then Josh had better stats, but he also led the league in picks.
He led league, I think, in turnovers overall. I don't know if it was picks, but
Which so I think it's a little bit different.
he
Do
led
you
league in
think
touchdowns and in turnovers, I
do
think.
you think record should play like a big factor?
So I
'Cause I
think
kind of think it should.
I think it should a little bit. I mean, that's sort of what I was talking about in this piece I did, where basically I was saying, like, listen, so for context, Josh Allen is the front runner for MVP. He has, really good numbers.
Mhm.
And a lot of it's because he's 11-3. And in December games so far, he's been by far the best quarterback in the
Oh
NFL.
yeah.
Like 14, he's playing his best football late. And so the idea is like, oh, the games matter late in the regular season. My point though was the regular season, basically what we just said, right? Like if the Ravens could make it a conversation, Lamar Jackson could make it a conversation because Josh Allen's and Lamar stats are so identical or very similar at least. I think late games in the records late matter so much because last year, if you look at last year,
Oh yeah, that's when it changed.
this time last year, and this was something I mentioned in the post, this time last year, Brock Purdy was minus 400 to win the MVP. And then he plays the Ravens on Christmas Day,
Yeah.
throws 4 interceptions. The Ravens lock up the 1 seed, even though the 49ers were the 1 seed in the NFC.
Mm-hmm.
The award went to Lamar, which, right, like I'm not saying he shouldn't have won it. Brock Purdy had better stats. Like his stats were he had more touchdowns and the same amount of turnovers. Admittedly, he had a much better supporting cast than Lamar. And also, we can watch the games. We understand that Lamar is a better quarterback than Brock Purdy. My point of saying that, though, is that like the Ravens winning that game and Brock Purdy having as bad of a performance he did literally flipped the odds from minus 400 for Purdy to like minus 1,000 for Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
Those late games in the regular season on prime time matter so much, and Josh has excelled with that. Obviously, the Chiefs game, which technically, I mean, that was November, but still, it was a late, really big game. And then he beat the Lions, played insanely well against the Rams, and then the Niners on Sunday Night Football. Like, that is how you win the award. The one thing is, the Ravens have, what, 2 prime times, maybe 3 prime time games to end the season, depending on how Week 18 goes.
They play the Steelers on Saturday.
And then the Texans on
Christmas. And then I think their last game against the Browns.
So it probably won't be a primetime game, but Josh Allen has a 4 o'clock game against the Patriots, a 1 o'clock game against the Jets, and a 1 o'clock game against the Patriots.
Yeah.
To end the season. Like
that's actually I didn't even think about that.
Lamar is going to be in the spotlight these next 2 weeks. Josh will the 4 o'clock game. I mean, that's something. They literally flex it to a 4
Say they
game.
both went out. Do you think Josh still wins? I think he probably.
I think he does.
Barring like he has some like horrible performance.
If the Ravens win out, they get the division no matter what.
I think they still need the Steelers to lose to the Chiefs.
So I think that matters. Like I genuinely think
100%.
If the Ravens don't win,
they're a wild card. Like, are you really going to give them?
You're not going to give it. That's the thing is if Lamar is the wild, if Lamar
whether that's right or wrong,
right? I think we're talking about narratives. We're talking about what we think
it's
is
a
going
narrative
to happen. But yeah, if they both win out and Lamar is the 3 seed, it's really like it's gonna be close. And I think it's gonna come down to stats. And honestly, like they might just. I think Josh might get it partially because of voter fatigue.
I think the fact that Lamar won it last year is hurting him. I think if he didn't win it last year,
he would have been.
They'd be like, who's gonna win, Josh or Lamar?
Well, that's the thing too is that he won it last year, and so many people are like, oh, he shouldn't have won it.
Yeah.
Because his numbers.
Which I understand people being annoyed by it, but it's also like I think there was gonna be problems with whoever
won. Yeah. And the thing with Lamar winning it last year is that those were like not good numbers for his career. right? Like if you look at his career, like they were pretty average numbers. Um,
I think there's something to be said about when you're like a dominant team like that, and there you also like lose a lot of opportunities when like there's probably 4 or 5 games where Lamar just like didn't play the fourth
yeah,
quarter,
exactly. And I mean, in
which is why I
Josh's,
think is another argument as to why wins should
yeah,
matter. And at the end of the day, like that's the goal. And sometimes you're like you should be playing to win rather
right,
than like boost your stats, whatever. But it's a balance too. Like if you were gonna say that, then you're not giving it to Mahomes this year. They have the best record in the
yeah,
league, but he's not playing that well.
yeah,
It's a balance,
yeah, it is a
and it's
balance.
hard to draw that line because
I
it's like if someone threw for 6,000 yards and 60 touchdowns, but they went, like 3-14, like you can't give them the
Right. It's
MVP.
like Joe Burrow this season. Like
Right.
Joe Burrow's stats are about the same as Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson's.
Yeah.
But he's not in the conversation because he's not going to
He is
make the
arguably the
playoffs.
best out of the three.
He has the best passing stats.
And part of that is like he's down every game and his defense is getting destroyed, so he has to
Right.
throw the ball all the
Exactly. Like
time.
he's constantly like he has not played he's never played from ahead. He's playing from
Yeah.
behind. Yeah. And that matters. Oh, not to mention Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Not that they played early in the season, but yeah, I don't know. I was actually it's interesting. My buddy, who's a big baseball fan, not a big NFL fan, he was asking me at the race, and he was kind of almost asking what we're talking about. He was like, this is I mean no hate to this, but he was like, how is Josh Allen? How is odds so big when the
Yeah.
stats are the same or so close to the same? And I was like, well, baseball is so easy to pick an MVP because you play pretty much all like you play every team and you play 162 games,
Mhm.
right? So like you have a huge sample size.
Yeah.
You have the sample size to say, okay, here's who we, here are the numbers. Basically,
Yeah.
you solely
Like
look at
one
the
game isn't
numbers.
going to swing anything.
One game's not going to swing anything.
In the NFL, like you were just talking about, one game really swung the entire race
Entire
last year.
race, and but that's because the NFL has such a smaller sample size. They
Yeah.
literally have
A
one
tenth.
tenth of the
Yeah.
games, and not to mention like you don't play every team. Right,
Also
like
true.
like I understand in baseball, you play your division more often than you play anyone else, and that actually does affect. I do think that affects numbers in a lot of ways, but
Imagine if the Bills and Ravens played later in the year.
yeah,
Because it's like the early games don't even matter, like you're talking about.
right, yeah, exactly. If Josh Allen had his game against the Ravens, a game against the Texans, like right now,
Yeah, he'd probably like
he-
lose
he'd
the
lose
award,
he'd lose
even
the
if the
odds.
Bills were like undefeated going into it.
Hmm. And that's what's so. I mean, it's dumb.
Because those are their only 2 losses, correct?
I know they lost to the Rams,
Oh, and the Rams.
but
Yeah.
he had six
Right.
touchdowns against
But if
them.
like those 2 games, like if he replace, say in those 2 games, like got replaced with like these Patriots and Jets games coming up, and he had like, good stat line, threw for like 250 yards, 2 touchdowns for both of them, just this like flat line. And then those 2 games were put at the end where the Ravens beat them by a lot, and then he was really bad against the Texans. That happened. He like might actually lose the award,
I
but
think
because
he
it was
would.
like week like 3 and 4, like it doesn't matter,
Yeah, and it's
which is kind of wrong, but
right. It's well, that's the thing is you have to take the season as a whole, but that's not how it
the
works.
later games do matter
Right.
more.
Yeah, and it's like it's a
Hard.
flawed award. And I'll put it this way, like I feel like a lot of times there's an outright, okay, that guy deserves it. Like when
Yeah,
Aaron Rodgers won his, when Patrick Mahomes won his,
yeah,
it was like this guy's the best, has the best stats, and he's on the best team, or
yeah.
has the one seed. We're gonna give it to him. We're just in a spot the last 2 years where it's like whoever is on the best team necessarily doesn't have the best stats. And
Well, I think Josh
well,
Allen is a very like deserving MVP this year.
I agree,
Yeah,
but like my point, I guess, is like his stats are him like just in terms of a stat perspective, him and Lamar are so similar. When I'm saying was the team with the best record doesn't have the best player. What I mean by that is Patrick Mahomes
yeah,
having
yeah.
a down year for his
And
standards.
Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts. I mean, he's statistically he's not horrible, and then you're not going to give it to a running back. And then if you go back to last year, like Brock Purdy was the one seed in the NFC, and I think part of it was that like nobody was going to give it to Brock. Like just in
Yeah.
terms of the narrative,
Like they
nobody.
were looking for him to like slip up
Yeah,
and
like
have that game.
Brock Purdy's stats were good, and then he had a bad game, and then it was flipped. And it's like I don't know. There just was no obvious winner,
Yeah.
and so it was like, okay, which of the one seeds who's sort of the better quarterback and who's played better down the stretch? And
Yeah.
obviously Lamar played better.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens if the Ravens win out, the Steelers lose two, and then so the Bills are the two, and the Ravens are the three.
Yeah,
It's gonna be interesting to see what happens. I
yeah,
feel like it would still probably just end up going to Josh,
probably.
mostly because of voter fatigue.
Well, also they would have two more wins than the Ravens.
Right, right,
Right.
definitely. Um, but I'm saying like I think voter fatigue would be
I think it
like
matters.
the like biggest swing. Because especially because Josh has never won one.
For sure. I think that's big. Lamar having three and Josh having zero when they're sort of in the same conversation
Oh yeah.
is like a weird dynamic because it's
Yeah.
like many consider them to be like competing for the number two quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like that's you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like to
Like, they've had
have
very similar careers.
yeah, they've had and they've just both never gotten it done in the playoffs. And then we talk about playoff stats all you want, but it's like it doesn't matter if you don't win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing too, is like Josh Allen's playoff stats are like ridiculous.
Yeah.
And he's been one AFC championship and
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that's it because that's something, but it's Lamar's been to what one AFC championship?
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's like I don't know.
It's tough.
It is tough. And Patrick Mahomes will probably figure it out. I mean,
Yeah.
he's
I'm still waiting on them to just like turn into like some like an insane juggernaut. Like
for sure.
Well, I guess it'll be in the divisional round, but
they literally haven't lost, or excuse me, they've lost one game
yeah,
all year, and I
they're
think
getting Hollywood Brown back now.
getting Hollywood Brown, Pacheco's back.
Yeah.
Let's look at Patrick Mahomes' stats: 22 passing touchdowns, 11 interceptions, one rushing touchdown. So yeah, he's not going to win it.
No, you can't.
No,
And he's hurt now.
It's true. I think. I mean, he's been a full participant.
Right when I need them to beat the Steelers, he gets hurt. It's
Yeah.
in 2 weeks.
I wonder if he plays this week.
I think I saw that they're planning on playing it.
Well, he was a full participant in a walkthrough practice,
Okay.
so technically it doesn't.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the thing with these little peek behind the scenes. So you'll see a lot of tweets from NFL reporters saying, "Hey, so and so is full today. They're in a full practice capacity." If it's tweeted on a Monday or sometimes a Friday, or even usually they wouldn't they don't really practice on Tuesdays. It's usually a walkthrough, especially late in the season. So it doesn't really tell you anything.
Right.
Like I remember Keon Coleman like 2 weeks ago was like, "Oh, he's full. He's back. He's full." And then it was like, "Yeah, they're walkthrough."
Yeah, he just has to wear a jersey and like walk through routes.
Yeah, and it's like they're not gonna. Why would he be limited for that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I take it with a grain of salt. And Patrick Mahomes will still probably play this week. He'll probably have a career day, and it won't. To be fair, though, he shouldn't play. Like they have nothing to gain from this win,
other than they like can't afford to like lose two of the last three.
Yeah, that's true. I guess they do need to win.
Yeah. Another thing going on in the NFL. What's your take on the what was your take when the Falcons drafted Michael Penix?
My it just didn't make sense to sign Kirk Cousins and draft Penix. I also maybe I was under a rock for draft season, but I felt like the consensus was that who are the top quarterbacks draft? JJ McCarthy, Nix, Penix, Caleb Williams, Drake May, Daniel.
Yeah.
So the idea was that I was blanked on that. Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Jaden Daniels, we're going to go 1, 2, and 3. And the idea was like, okay, maybe like JJ McCarthy will go later in the first round. And then Bo Nix and Michael Penix both. Like my whole thing was like, oh, that's a bad draft pick because I didn't think Michael Penix was going to get drafted in the top 10.
Right? Yeah, he definitely like went a little higher than people like
I
the
thought he was
consensus would have expected. I personally really liked him as a prospect. I didn't understand why JJ McCarthy was getting so much more love than him
right.
at all. Because other than the only thing JJ McCarthy has on Michael Penix is age
And
and
injury.
then winning with like a better program in
Yeah.
the national championship. Um,
Well, also injuries. Penix had,
and injuries,
but and
sure.
then McCarthy got hurt, so
Sure, I
it's
know.
kind of a
But
wash.
even like there's like the athleticism, and
Yeah.
then Penix runs a 4.4
Yeah.
at his pro day. And then there's the like elevating like and bringing like a program to national championship, which Penix did on his own in his own right as well, elevating Indiana and then elevating Washington.
Yeah.
I think Penix has more arm talent. Um, and then there's one other thing I was going to bring up. Production wise, he like blows McCarthy out of the water and has such a bigger sample size of good play
Yeah.
than McCarthy. But anyway, I liked him as a prospect. I really liked him. And I actually supported the pick. And I think the biggest reason that like the general consensus is that it was the dumbest thing of all time is because it was unorthodox. Like you don't normally invest that much in a quarterback where you like give a quarterback all this guaranteed money
Right.
and then also invest through the draft. But I don't think that was bad process because even if Cousins played out 3 years of his contract and then Penix finally gets to start at, 27 and then gives you 8 years of good quarterback play, this is hinging on if he's good,
Right.
obviously.
Right.
That is infinitely more valuable than like Dallas Turner, who is like a project edge rusher who like might be good in a year or two. Like I even
Right.
though it's pushed down the line, I think that is still way more valuable to you.
My
And no matter what the Falcons did with the pick, they weren't going to be like a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, that's fair. My thing was Michael Penix, because of his age and his experience, sort of screams like play me now. Like out of all the
I
prospects,
get that, but I just don't think it's as like
I think it worked out for them
important.
though. I think it worked
And
out for
obviously
them
it
though.
worked out. The pick worked out very well because Kirk Cousins, just kind of like fell apart.
Well, he just can't move. And the
Yeah.
thing is like there's 3 weeks left in the season. They're a game back of the Bucks, but they have the tiebreaker over the
Yeah.
Bucks. You're putting in Michael Penix. If he can actually play now, which he's 20 again, he played
Yeah.
college football forever. I mean, again, part of that was because of injuries. He's played a lot more snaps than a lot of these other
Yeah.
guys. So like a guy who was actually ready to play football at this age is huge.
Yeah.
Right? Like imagine the Vikings right now. Sam Darnold gets hurt and JJ McCarthy's in this scenario, JJ McCarthy
Yeah.
is
As
healthy,
healthy
he's
as you
just the
go.
backup. If the Vikings, if Darnold gets hurt and you throw in JJ McCarthy, like there's gonna be excitement just because he was a first round draft
Yeah.
pick. But like if I'm the Vikings, I'm like, all right, like there goes our Super Bowl hopes. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like there goes our chance at the division. Like
Yeah.
it's just it's no diss to JJ McCarthy. It's just that having a guy who's as young as him,
Yeah.
who again, yeah, he won a national championship, but he didn't throw the ball like he was he
And
was
I don't
on
want
a
that to sound like I like thought JJ McCarthy like sucks.
yeah.
Because I do think within the small sample size, he had a lot of things that like were working in his favor, and was very promising. And I think he was actually a pretty decent prospect. I just think that Penix got like solidly put below him for not the correct reasons, and then him getting drafted ahead of McCarthy barely made sense to me in
Yeah.
my head, but I knew people would freak out about it. Um,
Bo Nix, I remember liking him as like a lot as like a second round draft pick.
yeah, the
And
Broncos were
then
just in such a tough spot where like they kind of like had to.
they kind of
They
needed
had
the
no other
quarterback.
option.
And I mean he's played. I mean they're gonna make the playoffs for the first
I
time.
think he's a great pairing with Sean Payton.
Yeah, I was gonna say they've done well with I think they've excelled. I think they're like in terms of the like EPA is like they're like the number one play action team in the NFL or something
Yeah,
like
they
that.
got like a really good screen game with Sean Payton, and that's what like Bo Nix did a lot in college at Oregon at least. And then
Yeah,
yeah,
it's comes. I think a lot of times it does come down to like who's played football at a high level for a long time.
yeah,
And Bo Nix was an SEC quarterback and a Pac-12 quarterback. Again, Pac-12 we make fun of it now, but like he was Oregon's quarterback for a long time. Not a long time. He was I think it was 2 years, but he was Auburn's quarterback for the previous 3 years.
Yeah.
He played a lot of snaps. And I think that matters. I do think
Yeah.
that matters at a high level. Like you look at Trey Lance, and Trey Lance played like maybe a season and a half at North Dakota
Yeah, we
State.
just talked about how like small of a sample size football is.
Yeah.
You know, you hit on like 4 or 5 more deep balls than like your normal like that
Yeah.
are in a season, and all of a sudden you're like
Your
you look a
stats are
lot better.
flipped. Yeah, your stats get flipped, and it is big. So I think that big sample size of knowing what you are
Yeah.
is big. It's interesting because we look at Justin Herbert, him coming out. And when we talked about this, he was Oregon's quarterback with Mario Cristobal when he was there before he went to Miami. And he like didn't throw the ball downfield. Like I don't know if you remember, like they threw more screens than like any other team in the country. And it was like the reason this guy's stats are so good is because he doesn't throw. And then the moment he goes to the NFL, and they ask him to throw the ball downfield,
like 80-yard bombs,
and it's like,
it's like, whoa, this guy's like a top 3 arm in the NFL.
I was like, why didn't they do this at Oregon? Might won a national championship. So yeah, it's I mean, there's no perfect way to scout, who's going to be
it's so fascinating. Quarterback.
It's an imperfect
like evaluation. Yeah. But I'm very excited to see Penix because I've been a massive supporter of him as a prospect and the process of taking him. So I have a lot riding on the line.
I would just like to see him be good because I have a future on the Falcons to make the playoffs.
Oh, well, yeah, that helps.
That'd be good if he was good. But yeah, I do think it's to not again. I didn't like the move when it happened, as they said, but it would be cool to see Michael Penix like kind of figure it out.
And I also think the weapons he has are very like conducive to the way he plays because he's very just like, oh, I got one-on-one on the outside, I'm throwing it up. And like in college, that was to Dunze, Jalen McMillan, and Jalen Polk. And I kind of think the Drake London, Darnell Mooney, and like, Kyle Pitts, you always want to say it, but like maybe now he actually has a quarterback that can push the ball downfield and you can actually see what he can do because he's literally never had a quarterback that would be conducive to that skill set of being like this 6'6" like freak athlete running down the field or like he's had like busted up Matt Ryan with no arm.
And then he set records with.
He did.
Like he had 1,000 yards as a rookie, which I think Brock Bowers will be the second.
He's breaking all the records.
Yeah, I think Sam Laporta might have done last year, but before Kyle Pitts, they had never been done.
And then he had Ritter and Heineke or whatever that era was.
Yeah,
and then he had Kirk Cousins, who isn't like your push the ball way down the
field. He had a good start to the year. It's so crazy to
and Pitts was like okay in the beginning of the year, and I don't know. I'm never going to be the one to call out a Pitts breakout because every single person ever has fallen into the same trap, but it's something to look for.
The thing is he's a very good, like people like to look at the view of fantasy football.
Yeah.
Way too much. And they think of, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, Austin Eckler, people considered him like an elite running back because his fantasy numbers are crazy. And it was like, well, he was actually never like in the upper echelon.
Good.
Yeah, it was never bad, but he was never in the upper echelon of running backs. Kyle Pitts, from a skill set perspective, I genuinely do believe is like one of the best tight ends in the NFL, but he doesn't score touchdowns.
Nope.
And as you just said, like he hasn't really had a quarterback. Not to mention, tight ends, historically speaking, have like 3/4 of the receiving yards of a receiver. Like, and that's why there's only one tight end spot in fantasy football. So if that's the case, and you're not scoring touchdowns, you're not really going to be valuable in fantasy.
No.
And this isn't to say Kyle Pitts has had an incredible couple of years. He hasn't. But if you're putting up 1,000 yards as a rookie with a busted up Matt Ryan,
like that's very good.
And I think he only had one touchdown that year, and I think it was against the Bills.
It was in London.
Was it in London?
I think he scored one. I think he might have had one touchdown in the United States and one touchdown in London.
I know he had like an 80-yard receipt or reception against the Bills, but I don't think he scored a touchdown.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's just it's yeah, like Kyle Pitts' career, 17 games played, his rookie year, 110 targets, 1,000 yards, one touchdown. 2022, 10 games played, 400 or 350 yards. 2023, 17 games, 90 targets, 667 yards, and three touchdowns. 2024, he's 536, so he's probably on pace for about 700 and three touchdowns. And it's like, okay, if you just moved, like if you just scored three more touchdowns a year,
Yeah.
then he's like his entire perception is different.
Yeah,
I
probably.
genuinely think.
It's very much based
Like
on that production.
Sam Laporta last year had 889 yards, which is less than Kyle Pitts' rookie year, but he had 10 touchdowns.
Yeah, and everyone's like, "This is the best thing ever."
He's the
And he
best
also
tight end.
wasn't like hyped up and drafted fourth overall.
Right, right. There's that perspective of it too, but it's like
It's so much about expectation.
that's true. But like in Sam Laporta has five touchdowns this year already, despite only having 500 yards, which is what Kyle Pitts was
Yeah,
last year or
right,
2 years ago,
right.
whatever it was.
That's what it comes down to. The tight ends for sure.
It's like, can you score in the end zone? And it's like, it sort of depends on if you're on a good team that gets into the red zone a lot.
Yeah,
You know?
or if you have a quarterback that's gonna throw 30, 40 touchdowns.
Right. And then
Yeah,
you have Dalton Kincaid who
just like can't get that. So.
yeah, two catches for 30 yards.
And there's like Trey McBride this year is like
Oh my
dominated, but it's
goodness.
not touchdown.
Well,
But
I think it does come down to sometimes when you have a running quarterback that like, once you get to the red zone, it's like let's just
oh yeah, like the
like
Josh Allen kind of thing is just like, okay, well they're in the five. Like this is another conversation for another time, but it still amazes me when teams get to the 3 yard line and they have Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, whatever.
yeah.
Why would you do anything other
But
than
just
to touch push
yes,
four times?
four times. Yeah, no, I agree. I think teams get way too cute. We saw it with the Bills Lions.
It's like it doesn't make any sense. Like even when the team like knows it's the defense knows it's coming,
they can
they
rarely
can't do
stop
any.
it.
Like, what is the point of doing literally anything else?
Well, yeah, it's like
Like, what is the downside?
Bills Rams. You go for a sneaker touch push.
Okay, when there's timing involved, like there's
I know that's
that,
literally
like
well, I guess also head injuries would be the other thing, but
I, I guess if
I
I'm
don't
in the
think the
freaking
NFL, I don't know
Super
how
Bowl, like
yeah,
what, like
that's true.
I don't know.
But you're right. Like if you go back to the Bills Lions game, end of the first half, Bills had it second and goal, I think from like the 3,
Yeah,
turns into third and goal from the 2 or from the 1, and then you get a false start from because you're running a pass play. Like
yeah.
oh no,
Like why would you do anything else?
it was second and goal from the 3, and they threw it to Keon Coleman like for 2 yards. And it was
Yeah,
like, well, what was the point? Not what was the point of that, but it was like wasn't really particularly close to coming to the end zone. And then yeah, it turned third and goal from the 1, and then the false start. And
yeah. That's something that I don't know. We can talk about that
and then you
time.
miss a 24-yard field goal. Yeah, we do
we'll
kind of
get
have to
that.
wrap up.
Yeah, but all right. Quick goals next week.
Finish
This
Christmas
week.
shopping.
Okay, yeah, that's a big goal.
That's a big goal.
You got
I've 1
6
week.
days.
Oh, 6 days. I've less than a week.
There you go. Let's go. My goal. Okay, so this is kind of my like fitness plan moving forward. Is not eat terribly during while I'm home. Obviously, there's gonna be like stuff like my aunt makes cookies and gives us cookies, and I'm just gonna like eat them while I'm here. And then like New or Christmas Eve, Christmas, New Year's, like I'm gonna like do whatever. But I want to like not like eat way more than I should, except for those like exact holiday days. And then like the little extra, like use that to just be like very active and kind of like balance that out. And then kind of come the end of those holidays is when I'm like gonna get like really strict for probably like 2-ish months. And because I just want like one like more big push and then I feel like I can kind of maintain from there. But so enjoy the little extra things and then use that to just be like very active. Like I said, I've been like working out like 3 times. But yeah, that's the goal. But anyway, unless you got anything else, I think we're good there.
I think we're good.
Leave a like, comment, subscribe. Ian, classic. All right.
Episode 32 coming up.
Episode 32. start thinking. I already got a Spencer Ware in the bag. All right. Peace out, everybody.
Forget.